Good evening, Facebook Live. Apostle Terrence Lyons of Ecclesia Ministries here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Coming to you on tonight, bring you tonight's Bible study. Pray that everything is going well with everyone. We are definitely in a time of shifting. So thankful again to be here on tonight's Bible study. Yeah. Good evening there, Prophetess Tanisha. We, as I talked with you on Saturday, started part 2 of clarifying your desire on Saturday, and I'll let you know that between Saturday's message and today's message and this coming Saturday's message, that going to be some life-changing info that going to come forth for you. I can't recall. I'll have to look back at my notes and see and think and wonder. I've got 8 points tonight. And I don't know that I've ever had 8 points to actually come forth in a Bible study before. So I'll have to go back and look at my notes and see to give everyone a chance to get on here and look for sis to come on. Good evening there, Overseer Melissa. Good evening there, Prophetess Elizabeth. Good evening there, sis. There's going to be some serious stuff to come forth tonight. When the Lord was showing me last Saturday and, helping me to see how all of the pieces were going to come together for these 3 messages, when he began to give me the information, and I mean, it just flowed like just a flood of information, like all together, and boom, boom, boom. And it's not like that has happened before, but usually it's kind of spread out, and he gives it to me to where it's going to be spread out. When he dropped this to me and told me that, this is going to be over the course of the next 3 messages, I understood clearly that there was something majorly different about these 3. I need for everybody to understand tonight that I do truly love you. I am not trying to cause you pain. I ain't trying to cause you no hurt feelings. I ain't trying to cause you none of that. But the question that I have, laid out for tonight, how big is your if? I promise that the way that you're going to see what you're going to see tonight is going to clarify something. And when it begins to clarify for you, I pray that the Most High gives you clarity for the pace that you're going to want to go at once you start to see what you're going to see after tonight. Because when I told you on Saturday that imagination either causes vision or a vice, tonight is where you're going to begin to see and have clarity for the vision side of things. And what I found typically is that when people get a hold of that, they are ready to just take off. And I want to make sure that, as you step into that tonight and begin to see some things more clear, that you have the self-control to manage that clarity and function with it in a way that's healthy for you. So let's get this thing rolling. How big is your if? Okay, so I want to start out in Isaiah chapter 1, verses 19 and 20 for our first point, because if is a mighty big word, even though it's just two letters. Because when if is put into the equation, that means that there are some conditions that go along with that if. And that's why you got to find out how big is your if. So in Isaiah chapter 1, verses 19 through 20, it says, if you be willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. But if ye refuse and rebel, you shall be devoured with the sword. For the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it. So I want you to clearly see that in these two verses, the if clause. See, Santa Claus brings gifts, but your if can bring you consequences if your if is not directly, properly, and indirectly directed. So this is what I want you to catch. In verse 19, it gives the positive side. If you be willing and obedient. So see, a lot of people are just obedient. And their if is actually keeping them from eating the good of the land because they're not willing. Because this says, if you be willing and obedient, not willing or obedient. Teach them lions. It doesn't say willing or obedient. And see, that's what's been happening with a lot of you is you've either been willing and partially obedient, or you've been fully obedient but not willing because you just wanted to get it over with. That's why I told y'all I love you. That's why I told you that I love you to start it out. Because I want you to catch this. I want you to make sure that you see what I'm showing you here in Isaiah 1. Because in verse 20, it says, but if you refuse and rebel. So we've got two ifs here. We've got if on the positive side, and we've got if on the negative / consequence side. So he's saying, if you be willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. But if you refuse and rebel, you'll be devoured by the sword. So the reason that this is so important and what I want you to catch in this first point is if implies advancement or demise upon the conditionality of whatever is in question and being answered. Because here's why I want you to see this. The conditionality is working on both ends. It's working on the good end and it's working on the bad end. If you're willing and obedient, you'll eat the good of the land. If you refuse and rebel, you're going to get these consequences. You're going to get this sword. You're going to get this demise. That's what's coming. And this is what God is laying out. This is what he is laying out. That's why it says, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken it. So what he's doing is he's saying, I've got this set up to work for you either way. So I need y'all to type that in for me. This will work for you either way. If will work for you either way. And that's what you have to grasp a hold of. The if can work to your good, or the if can work to your demise. And you have to be the one to be able to see which is which on your behalf. Because when he's saying, if you be willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. But if you refuse and rebel, you shall be devoured with the sword. So what this is trying to show you is, this is your choice. This is your choice. Literally. This is literally left up to you. And that's the one thing that I am so thankful that God has never taken away from us, is the power of choice. Even if you want bad. If you want bad, that's your business. That is your business. It will work for you either way. It'll work for you in a good way, or it'll work for you in a bad way. That is totally up to you. So I'm going to say this because I feel like somebody may be running this through the back of your head. Predestiny, listen close to what I'm fixing to say. Predestiny always has the if clause in it. God is never, and when I say never, you're not going to be able to find it in scripture, because I don't look for it. You're not going to be able to find where choice was taken away from anybody. It wasn't taken away from Judas. It wasn't taken away from Lucifer. It wasn't taken away from nobody. Choice was always there. And once they made their choice, whoever it was, that is when either the good or the consequences came. So what he's got in place for you, and I'm meaning everybody on here, what he's got in place for you, there's an if clause automatically in it. He said, I'm going to set before you death and life. I'm going to set before you good and evil. I'm going to tell you to choose life. But if you choose not to listen and choose life, then the consequences that come along with death are that's going to be your portion. That's why I wanted you to see this starting out with Isaiah and him saying, if you be willing and obedient, the good of the land, you're going to get to eat the good of the land. If you refuse and rebel, you're going to get these consequences. You shall be devoured with the sword. So the if will work for you either way. And that's what I want you to catch out of that first point, because like I said, if implies advancement or demise based upon conditionality of whatever is in question, whenever whatever is in question is being answered. So when he's saying, I'm giving you this choice, you can be willing and obedient and you'll eat the good of the land, or you can refuse and rebel. You ain't got to do what he told you to do. You ain't got to do what the good that he's got in place for you to receive. You ain't got to do that. Just be ready for the consequences if you don't. Now, I wanted that to lay out that first one. So now let's get ready for the second point. For the second point, I want you to go to the book of Judges, chapter 7. We're going to look at verses 7 through 11. I want you to see this. Book of Judges, chapter 7, verse 7 through 11 says this. It says, And the Lord said unto Gideon, By the 300 men that lapped will I save you, and deliver the Midianites into thine hand, and let all the other people go, every man unto his place. So the people took the victuals in their hand and their trumpets, and he sent all the rest of Israel, every man unto his tent, and retained those 300 men. And the host of Midian was beneath him in the valley. And it came to pass the same night that the Lord said unto him, Arise, get thee down unto the host, for I have delivered it into thine hand. But if thou fear. Now see, nobody can answer that question. Nobody can answer that if but Gideon. And God does not tell him, even if you're scared, go on. That's why when people try to preach that mess, we'll just go on and do it scared. No, don't do that. You finna jack up something. You better own your fear, stop and deal with it, and then advance. Because what God is looking for is he's saying, okay, I want willing and obedient. If you scared, you ain't fixing to be willing and obedient. If you're scared, you're not fixing to be willing and obedient. So you, at that point, you shouldn't be expecting to eat the good of the land of the situation that you're dealing with right there. Teach them lines. Just teach them lines. I'm just trying to teach you tonight. So when he says, if thou fear to go down, go thou and Phurah thy servant down to the host, and thou shalt hear, watch this, what they say. And afterward shall thine hands be strengthened to go down unto the host. Then he went down with Phurah his servant unto the outside of the armed men that were in the host. Now, this is why I want you to understand this. Because when he says in verse 7, the Lord said unto Gideon, By the 300 men that lapped will I save you, and deliver the Midianites into thine hand. Gideon, when God first told him, okay, Gideon, you're a mighty man of valor. I'm going to deliver the Israelites. I'm going to deliver y'all from the Midianites. Gideon, like, who, me? And he goes through this process. And at the time that he initially tells Gideon that, there are 32,000 soldiers. 32,000. So then, it's like Gideon's like, oh, okay, yeah, we can do this. We finna get out. Just like it happened with you when there were these things that God told you was yours and you began to go that direction. And when you start going that direction, all of a sudden, he starts dwindling stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, I told you to go and apply for that house. I told you that was the one. And then all of a sudden, somebody lose their job. Or they end up cutting hours. They end up changing something. Something about what you were initially going by ends up changing. Oh yeah, we're going to make these changes on the job, and we're going to supply you with all of these tools, and we're going to give you all of these people, and we're going to make sure that you got help. And then they start cutting numbers. But of course, y'all didn't ever experienced nothing like that. But what I want you to understand is when God is sending you a specific direction, sometimes the way that he checks to see if your faith is in him or in the provision that he's wanting you to go by, he'll cut provision to see if your trust is still in him. He's checking. He's checking to see what's your trust in. What's your trust really in? Is it in me? Or is it in the provision that I'm going to give you to do what I told you? See, this is why we got to clarify desire. Because if your faith ends up being in the provision that he gave, watch this, instead of the word that he gave, now we're fixing to have a problem. Because one of the things that you have to embrace about this, that's why I said, how big is your if? See, one of the things that you got to embrace about this is some of you didn't clarify your desire before you took the step, before you said yes to the specific thing, to the job, to the house, to the car, to the relationship, to the all of those things. When you said yes initially, some of you are finding out that your trust was actually in the provision instead of the promise. See, don't mistake the provision for the promise. Teach them, lions. Don't mistake being focused on, oh, well, yeah, if you're going to give me that to work with, then yeah, the answer is yes. And then you start going that direction. And all of a sudden, that gets scaled back. Like, whoa, Lord. Hold on. Hold up, Lord. You said that, you was going to provide. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to provide. Not based upon what you see. See, this is why you got to understand that, because when you start focusing on the provision instead of the promise, now you're hindering the progress. Don't let your if hinder the progress. Y'all type that in for me. Don't let your if hinder the progress. Because again, your if will work for you either way. So don't let your if hinder the progress, because this is what I want you to catch about our second point. Our second point is if sometimes helps to clarify your choice to decide. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that in a bad way. Not saying that in a bad way at all. I want you to catch this, because when you encounter that if is designed to help you see you. The if is designed to help you see you. So y'all type in for me, Lord, help me to see myself. Lord, help me to see myself. Because right now, some of y'all ain't seeing yourself clearly. Again, you got focused in on the provision instead of the promise. And when you got focused in on the provision instead of the promise, now that's caused you to lose yourself. That's caused you to begin to be zeroed in on the wrong things. And once you got zeroed in on the wrong things, now what's happening is you don't have clarity about your desire anymore. You don't want to be in a relationship anymore. You don't want to be on that job anymore. You don't want to be in that neighborhood no more. You don't want to be in that city anymore. You don't want to be in that state anymore. You don't want to be in those things. So you need to be able to see yourself properly right where you at right now. Because until you see yourself properly right where you're at, your ifs are going to slow you down. Your ifs are going to keep you from seeing yourself properly and being able to make the right decisions based on the promise instead of what used to be the provision. Let's get ready for number 3. So number 1 again was if implies advancement or demise based upon conditionality of whatever is in question and is being answered. So this is, and then point number 2 is if sometimes helps to clarify your choice to decide. Okay. And that's why with this one, when you see in verse 10 right there in Judges 7, God has already clarified who he wants Gideon to take with him to fight. He's clarified who their enemy is. He's clarified where their enemy is. But the only thing in question is Gideon's fear. So when he says, if thou fear to go down, it's like, yeah, I know I shook you a little bit when I dwindled down your men. And I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but I know it shook you a little bit when God allowed the hours to be cut after he told you to make this decision. It shook you a little bit when the person walked out on you after you made it. It shifted you and shook you a little bit when the adjustments that came after you said yes began to reveal themselves. You thought this person was like this. You said yes. And then they became like this. So now what was your yes based on? See, what you got to realize is that sometimes our ifs are being hindrances to our yes. And we're gonna dig this thing down real deep between tonight and Saturday, because this is what I want you to catch right here. So now let's look at Judges chapter 6, verses 36 through 40 to deal with this third point. Judges chapter 6, verses 36 through 40 says this. Judges chapter 6, verse 36 through 40 says, and Gideon said to God, if thou wilt save Israel by mine hand. So this is going back prior. This is before the dwindling down of the soldiers and all of that. It says, Gideon said unto God, if thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, watch this, as thou hast said. So he told him, he's already explained to Gideon, this is what I'm going to do through you. So just like he told you, okay, I want you to be in this house. I want you to be in this relationship. I want you to be on this job. I want you to take this promotion. I want you to move to this city. I want you to, whatever it was he gave you. You heard him clearly. But then once you made the move, then all of a sudden the conditions shifted. And once the conditions shifted, now you're in question. Did I really hear God? I feel like I'm talking directly to somebody and I don't know who it is. But this is what I want you to catch. You're questioning it. Did I really hear God about doing this right here? Did he really tell me to be in this relationship? Did he really tell me to take this job? Did he really tell me to be in this city? Did he really tell me to take this position? Did he really tell me this? And the answer is yes. He really told you that. This is what I want you to catch. It says in verse 37, behold, I will put a fleece of wool in the floor, and if the dew be on the fleece only, and it be dry upon all the earth beside, then shall I know that thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said. And it was so, for he rose up early on the morrow and thrust the fleece together and wringed the dew out of the fleece, a bowl full of water. And Gideon said unto God, let not thine anger be hot against me, and I will speak but this once. Let me prove, I pray thee, but this once with the fleece. Let it now be dry only upon the fleece, and upon all the ground let there be dew. And God did so that night, for it was dry upon the fleece only, and there was dew on all the ground. So what I want you to catch out of this is Gideon is asking God to give him clarification on something that he knows that only God can do. It's only God that can do what I'm asking him to do. And see, that is where I'm talking to all of you tonight. All of you are waiting on God to do something that only God can do. You're waiting on him to turn the relationship around, and can't nobody turn it around but him. And you put your if out there, Lord, if you don't turn this around, I rest to go. Some of you are in a position on the job. I feel this thing, y'all. Some of you are in a position on a job, and you're like, Lord, I don't know if I heard you not about this one now, because Lord, either turn them folk around or turn this company around, or I'm ready to go. Lord, I feel like you initially told me to be in this city, but I got to put this fleece out here. If you really meant for me to be in this city, I'm gonna need you to show me some kind of favor. The only you can show me. Because right now it's looking real shaky and real questionable again. I'm not understanding why all of this is going on. See, this is why I need you to catch this, Lord. I pray to you. You said this was the one, but they acting real shady right now, Lord. They ain't making no sense right now, Lord. Only you can turn them around. If you don't turn them around, see, that's what the fleece is. And again, I'm not against fleeces, because your if is what you need sometimes in order to determine to help you make the choice that you need to make. This is why I want you to catch this, and this is why I'm driving this part right here home for our third point. When your if is bigger than your yes, your desire ain't clarified yet. When your if is bigger than your yes, then your desire is not clarified yet. Because your if is saying, I have a specific set of conditions that I want to be in place before I say yes. And some of you ain't got the conditions. You've been waiting years, and the conditions still ain't set up for you. But instead of you deciding, you still keep asking for conditions to be shown. Oh, I'm finna deal with some stuff tonight. So this is what I want you to do to get ready for our fourth point. So for our fourth point, I want you to go. We're going to look at two passages before I give you the fourth point. So I want you to go to Amos chapter 8, verse 11 and 12 first. Because in Amos chapter 8, verse 11 and 12 is where he says this. Because remember our question, how big is your if? How big is your if? Lord, if you get me out of this one, I ain't going to do this no more. Because y'all ain't ever done nothing like that. And that was just me in some difficult times before. Y'all ain't ever made no bargain with God like that. Lord, if you get me out of this one. Watch this. Amos chapter 8, verse 11 and 12 says this. Watch this. Amos chapter 8, verse 11 and 12. It says, behold, the days come, saith the Lord God, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, and shall not find it. Now, it's very important to understand, because he's saying, I'm going to let a famine happen, but the famine is going to be finding the true word of the living God. This is why I don't take lightly all of you who tune in, all of you who follow, all of you who are part of Ecclesia of Murfreesboro, Exclusive Ecclesia, Effective Ecclesia International, my personal page. That's why I don't take lightly you guys tuning in and following, coming in person to Ecclesia Ministries. I don't take that lightly, because I know the work that I put in to hear from heaven, to give God's word. And he has me to put it on a limited platform for that right there. For that specific word. That specific word right there. That's why I'm very careful about what I release and who I release it to. Because I'm not steward over my words. He is. They're his words. They're words from his kingdom. So I can't just go out blabbing them anywhere and everywhere that I want to go blabbing, because it's not my word. It's his. So the revelation that he gives it to me to steward over it. But I then have to be obedient to when, where, and who he gives me to release it to. So that's why I don't take it lightly. A lot of people are hung up on the numbers. They're hung up. I wish we had more followers. I wish we had. I ain't wishing jack. Whoever he want to hear what I got to say, what he gave me to say, he gonna send them. They're going to hear it however they're going to hear it. And his name is the one that's going to be glorified. So all I got to do, watch this, is be willing and obedient. And I get to keep eating the good of the land. I get to keep feeding on the revelation that he gives me, that he doesn't give to anybody else. He gives it to me. So I get to keep walking in that. And that's all I'm trying to set up for you guys. Once you hear it and then you start applying this and you start getting the changes and you start getting those things, and he begins to give you clarity and direction on how he wants you to go, then watch this, your ifs start to come down and your yeses start to come up. This is why I want you to catch this, because like I just said, when your if is bigger than your yes, then your desire ain't clarified yet. So this in Amos 8 and 11, he's saying, y'all are seeking. You ain't going to find it because I got a famine going on. He's like, those of you that wouldn't listen when I initially told you, yeah, you're about to experience a famine. But those of you that continually listen and are willing and obedient, then I'm going to keep feeding you. So this is why I want you to see this. Now I want you to go to Luke chapter 11 and verse 9. So keep in mind what I just read to you. He's saying the days come that he's going to send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst of water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. He's saying you're going to wander from sea to sea, north to the west, or north to the east. He said you'll run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, and you shall not find it. But then he says something in Luke 11 that I'm like, okay, now when I saw this years ago, and I was like, wait a minute, over here you saying there's going to be a famine, but over here you saying this right here. In Luke 11 and verse 9, he says this. Luke chapter 11 and verse 9, he says, and I say unto you, ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. So this looks contradictory, but it's not. Because what he's trying to show you and what he's trying to lay out from here is he's trying to show, okay, if you continue in my word, then are you my disciples. And if you continue in my word, if you seek, you'll find. If you knock, it'll be open. If you ask, it'll be given. So he's saying, I need to see consistency. That's what he's after. That's what he's looking for out of all of us. That's why you got to address your ifs. It's about to get real heavy right here. This is why you got to address your ifs, because, watch this. This is my fourth point. If you consistently require an if to get to your yes, you haven't fully committed to anything yet. Oh, I love you. I love you. But what's going on with a lot of you, see, the reason you haven't gotten farther in the relationship that you're in is because you said, if they treat me right, then I'll be my real self. You haven't gotten a promotion on that job because you said, if I see that it's worth my while, then I'll give 110%. If this boss finally shows me that they care about me, then I'll start to really give my all when I'm here on the job. If this pastor shows that he really cares about me, then I'll commit to doing more in the church. See, some of you, again, you ask God, he said, yes, go do that. Yes, be in that relationship. Yes, accept that job. Yes, do this. But you haven't fully put forth any effort yet because you've gone by your if. Oh. So since you've gone by your if, that's why you ain't got the good of the land yet. Teach him, Lion. The reason you ain't got the good of the land yet, he said, I need for you to be willing and obedient before you get the good of the land. Not just obedient. I know you heard what I said, so you went, but I didn't just want you to just go just to be going. I wanted you to be willing when you went so that you could be willing and obedient and get the good. And I could then, watch this, have my name glorified because I sent you in there to be an example for my kingdom. So this is why I want you to catch this. Because, again, our fourth point, if you consistently require an if to get to your yes, you haven't fully committed to anything yet. And that is what has happened with a lot of you. You went the direction God gave you to go, but you had an if clause in there. So let's get ready for point number 5. So for point number 5, I need you to go to Matthew 14, verses 22 through 31. Because remember what I said Saturday, your imagination will either, watch this, cause vision or a vice. See, and what you've been thinking in your head is why you've been leaning on your ifs. See, in your head, what you're playing out in your imagination is, well, shoot, they ain't acted right up to this point, so why should I think they're going to act right now? Because the Lord has told you, if you give it your all, you watch what I do. And if you be willing and obedient, you're going to eat the good of this land. Because then, if you're willing and obedient and you do what I told you to do, if they're not compliant and treat you like your mind, then I'll deal with them. But you won't let me deal with them because you keep giving your if in here and won't fully commit to nothing. See, this is why no guile is so important, because no guile ain't worried about conditions. It's either a yes or it's a no. That's why you got to let your yay be yay or your nay be nay. Not yes if. Not no if. let me go on and deal with number 5. Because Matthew 14, verses 22 through 31, Matthew 14, verses 22 through 31 says this. Watch this. Matthew 14, verse 22 through 31 says this. It says, and straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side while he sent the multitudes away. So see, there are times, I need for y'all to get this. I need for y'all to pay close attention to what I'm fixing to tell you. There are times that he means for you to not feel or sense his presence at the start of a thing. Just like that. He's like, I'm not going on the ship with you. I'm going to send you ahead. Now I'm going to give my word to the situation, but I'm not getting on the ship with you. Teach them lines. I'm not getting on the ship with you, but I'm sending my word before you because my promise is what's going to fulfill you on this journey. Watch this. Goes on, it says, verse 23, it says, and when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up to a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. All right. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the 4th watch, on the night of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, it is a spirit. And they cried out, watch this, for fear. So they're scared. Now, first thing Jesus addresses, look at what he addresses. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, be of good cheer. Then he says, it's me. He says, it is I. Be not afraid. So he's addressing the fear. That's why I'm saying to you, and that's why when people say, well, if you're scared, do it scared. No, stop. Stop that crap. Yes, I said it just like that. Stop that. Because until you address that fear, see, perfect love cast out fear. So if you go into watch this. I got to make sure you get this. If you go into a new situation with fear in the foundation, that's why you're crumbling as you go on into the situation. Because fear wasn't supposed to be a part of that equation. Never has been supposed to be. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So when he's telling you to go into something new, that's the last thing he wants to be in the foundation of it is fear. I pray that makes sense to you. I'm not trying to tell you you're wrong for being scared. I'm trying to tell you you're wrong for trying to advance while you're scared, because that ain't what he ever tells us to do. So this is what I want you to catch. When he's telling them, be not afraid and address that fear, this is why it's so crucial. In verse 28, it says, and Peter answered him and said, watch this, Lord, if it be thou. He just told you it's me. He just told you it's me. But Peter is still dealing with that fear. So that's why I'm telling you the way that you have to address these things is you have to now, watch this, when the fear pops up, I'm not telling you just put it away and don't figure out why you're scared. I'm telling you, you need to find out why you're scared. Just don't try to advance while you're scared. Calm down, Lions, teacher. Calm down, Lions, teacher. This is what I want you to catch. Because he goes on and then he says, watch this. He says, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water. So notice the if. Remember the question. How big is your if? So now he's asking to step outside of the boat and step outside of what the original instructions were. And Jesus ain't telling him he's wrong because, again, what is he doing? He's addressing his fear. He's addressing his fear about the identity of Jesus right here. It's not about him walking on the water. He's addressing, I need to confirm that that's you. I need to go, because what originally had me scared is because I thought you were a spirit. What originally had me scared is because I didn't identify you. What originally had me scared is because you weren't being who you said you were going to be initially in the relationship. What originally had me scared was because when I got the job, you started acting like this and y'all started carrying out things. And this ain't what you told me in the interview. I pray that y'all are hearing what I'm saying. So when he goes on and he says this right here, he says, and he said, come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. So he actually carries out what was said. Lord, if it be you, bid me to come on the water to you. So watch what happens. So he walks on the water, goes to Jesus, but because remember, he went out on an if. He didn't go out on a yes. So y'all type that in for me. Step out on a yes, not an if. Step out on a yes. If you're going to step out, make sure that you step out on a yes, not an if. See, because when you step out on an if, what you're saying is, I need for the conditions to match before you get my yes. That's what's been going on with some of you. You've been stepping out on an if, not a yes. And when you step out on an if, when it's time for you to say yes, you're really not even going to have the capacity to say yes because you stepped out initially on an if. So this is why I need for you to catch this, because this is what I want you to see. It goes on and he says, but when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid. So notice he goes right back to being afraid about something else. Initially, he was afraid about whether or not that was Jesus. Now he's afraid of the wind. See, so that's why you keep bouncing from fear to fear instead of from faith to faith. Teach them, lions. See, that's why you keep going from fear to fear instead of from faith to faith, because you stepped out on an if instead of a yes. See, because once you begin to step out on that yes, the only thing that's going to happen again is another yes. But if you step out on an if, then the only thing that's going to happen is another if. So this is why I want you to see this. Because now, when he says he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried, saying, Lord, save me. So watch this. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand, caught him, and notice what he says unto him. He said unto him, O thou of little faith, but then look at what he asked him. Wherefore didst thou doubt? So this is what I want you to catch about our fifth point. So our fifth point is this. When your if is bigger than your yes at the start, you're probably going to end up double-minded about that specific thing. So when you find yourself being double-minded about stuff, if you'll be honest and go back to the very start, you started out on an if. Because you said, if this works out like this, then I'll say yes. Now, again, I'm not saying you're wrong for doing that. I'm saying you need to clarify your fear about that. You need to clarify, okay, what is it? Why am I afraid about whatever I am afraid of? Because that's why I wanted you to see the Gideon deal. Because when God told him, yeah, I'm going to do this through you, but if you're still scared, I need you to go down there and listen to what you're going to hear them say. Because when you get down there, you're going to hear them say that I've already given them into your hands. They already know they're defeated. They just waiting on you to show up. Your situation already knows it's defeated. God's just waiting on you to give him a yes instead of an if. Let me show you this. When he says, wherefore didst thou doubt? He's trying to get Peter to see, go back and see when you really started doubting. Where did you get off track? You were walking on the water that you asked me to initiate. You are the one that said, if that's you, bid me to come. I did my part and told you to come. And now you step out and start walking on the water. But then you get scared based upon the wind. Well, if you'll trace it back, you were scared about me. Then you put an if in there to get rid of that fear. And all that did was breed another level of fear on something else. This is why I want you to catch this as we get ready for the 6th point. Because like I said, goodness gracious, time rolling. Watch this. Let's deal with this. So on this 6th point, let's go to the book of Jonah, chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. Jonah, chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. Watch this, because I want you to catch this. This is important. How big is your if? Everybody's got to define. And like I said, I'm not telling you to not have ifs. You need to have your ifs so that you can clarify why things are so important for you. Watch this. So Jonah chapter 4, verse 1. Verse 1 and 2. Watch this. Watch this, because this is vital. Jonah chapter 4, verse 1 and 2 says this. It says, but it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he was very angry. And he prayed unto the Lord and said, I pray thee, O Lord, was not this my saying when I was yet in my country? Therefore I fled before unto Tarshish, for I knew that thou art a gracious God and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, watch this, and repentest thee of the evil. So Jonah right here, he's pissed. He is mad. He is upset because God saved some people that he wanted him to destroy. That's why he's upset. He's upset he didn't go initially because he's like, no, they need to be struck down. No, they need to get their consequences. And he's mad. Honestly, he's flat out mad that God does not wipe him off the face of the earth. That's what he's upset about. And he goes back and he reminds God, he's like, this is why I didn't, watch this, immediately be obedient to you. I ain't even got time to deal with that right now, but this is what he is expressing. He's saying, the reason I wasn't immediately obedient to you, I heard you where you told me to go, but I went completely opposite of where you told me to go because no, they need to get them consequences. So watch this, because this is why this is so important. This is why I picked this right here to show you this. Because for a sixth point, watch this. When your if is bigger than your yes, then you will have more faith in the conditions than you do in your calling. Oh my goodness. He's telling Jonah, I need for you to go use your prophetic voice. Go speak to these people before destruction comes. Let them know that they need to repent so that they got a chance to repent. That's your call. I called you to be a prophet. But see, a lot of people don't understand why Jonah wasn't just completely struck dead. Because Jonah was real. Jonah had no guile. Jonah is showing us the example. He ends up in a whale's belly because he was openly letting God know, I ain't down with what you gave me to do this time. No, Lord, I ain't liking that one. No, I do not want to. No, I ain't trying to accept that relationship. No, I ain't trying to go to that job. No, I'm not trying to move to that city. No, I'm not trying to go to that church. No, I'm not trying to. No, Lord. No. No. When your if is bigger than your yes, then you will have more faith in the conditions than you do in your calling. That's what he's fighting with God about, because he's saying, this is why me and you was having our issue in the beginning. This is why I didn't follow the instructions at the very beginning, because I knew you was going to save them no good, low down, dirty folk. I knew that you was going to save them haters that's been hating against me. That's why I ain't told them about you. No, I ain't fixing to calm down. And no, I ain't fixing to interact with them, because I know you might save them. You might turn things around for them. And I just can't trust them. I got to feed them with a long handle spoon. I'm not going to surrender to no relationship like that no more, because all of your ifs. All of your ifs. And see, this is what I want you to catch. Because, watch this right here. As we get ready for point number 7, I want you to go, watch this. I want you to go to John chapter 20, verses 24 through 29. John chapter 20, verses 24 through 29. If you ain't paid attention to nothing I've said up to these points, please pay close attention and embrace point 7 and point at number 8. Because these two right here, these are going to help set you up to be completely ready to deal with your if. So John chapter 20, verses 24 through 29. says this. It says, but Thomas, one of the 12, called Didymus, was not with them when Jesus came. The other disciples therefore said unto him, we have seen the Lord. This is after the resurrection. It said, we have seen the Lord. But he said unto them, again, being 1000% authentic, no guile. This is why I love that these are in the scriptures. I'm glad for the Jonahs. I'm glad for the Thomases. I'm glad for the Peters. I'm glad that these are in here because these are what helped me become who he designed for me to be here in the earth. Because I needed to see somebody that was being 1000% authentic and 1000% real in the moments that they were in. Because I'm not fixing to act like that I am willing and obedient every single time he tells me to do something. No, I'm not initially. I then have to deal with why am I not initially willing and obedient? And then once I deal with that, it's like, okay, yeah, all right, Lord, thank you for not striking me dead right there. Cause yeah, I wasn't feeling that at first. I ain't gonna lie. I wasn't feeling that. And he knows that. That's why he says, I would that you were cold or hot. But if you're lukewarm, I'll spew you out. So I would prefer you just flat out say, Lord, I hear you, but Lord, I ain't feeling you right there. I hear clearly what you're telling me to do right here, Lord. But no, they underhanded, they dirty, they scoundrels, they haters, they whatever it is. He would rather you flat out, just like Jonah. He would rather you flat out say, Lord, I hear you, but I ain't feeling you on that one. It's that he's like, okay, at least I know they're going to be honest with me. At least I know they're going to be straight up with me. I can still use them. So he works with you. He give you a little smacks upside the head. He give you some little elbow drops. He'll give you some little something, but he don't wipe you completely out. But he lets you know, okay, now I built you for this, and you. so this is why I want you to catch this, because Thomas is giving us that great example that we need for what you need to understand about how big is your if. He says, the other disciples therefore said unto him, we have seen the Lord, but he said unto them, except, that's an if right there. That's an if statement. He said, y'all can tell me what y'all saw, but watch this, except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe. This is one of his 12. This is one of the ones he chose. And he's saying, y'all can tell me whatever y'all want to tell me until I see it for myself. Nope, I ain't going. Watch what happens. It says, and after 8 days, 8 days. Y'all know what 8 is. Y'all know it's the number of new beginning. It's also the number of the consecration of the circumcision that was set in the original Levitical laws. So he's just carrying out the exact same process. So he then said, after 8 days again, his disciples were within, and Thomas with them. Then came Jesus, the doors being shut, and stood in the midst, and said, peace be unto you. Then saith he to Thomas, reach hither thy finger, behold my hands, and reach hither thy hand, and thrust it into my side, and be not faithless, but believing. And Thomas answered and said unto him, my Lord and my God. Jesus said unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen and yet have believed. This is why you got to address your if. See, when he's telling Thomas, he's not saying he's not eventually going to get to partake of the eating of the good of the land of that situation. He's saying you delayed your own process. So quit delaying your process with your if. This is why I want you to catch point number 7 right here. I love you, and I pray that you have got steel toes on and a neck brace and everything else to protect yourself with this 7th point. Some of you have let your if become your idol. Oh, see, y'all type that in for me. Don't let your if become your idol. See, when your if becomes your idol, then even folks that's got credibility with you, you still won't listen to them. You still won't listen to them. So see, some of you have let your if become your idol, and you've allowed your yes to become a yield sign. You've let your if become an idol, and you let your yes become a yield sign. You let your if become that idol, and as while you've got that if being your idol, then your yes becomes a yield sign. When, watch this, when the circumstances yield to my if, then I will merge with my yes. Teach them lions. I'm not letting my yes be yes until the ifs match what I want. So when the if don't match what you want, then your yes is still sitting there at the yield and won't step in. See, some of y'all, the only time you'll answer yes is when the ifs, the conditions of the if, are in your favor. I love you. But now let's go on and get ready for point number 8. Because this is what I want you to get. Point number 8, our last scripture is going to be the book of Acts, chapter 20, verses 22 through 24. Book of Acts, chapter 20, verses 22 through 24. So this right here, I'm gonna back up off of y'all for you got about 48 hours to heal up and get ready for the finishing thing on Saturday. But this is what I want you to catch for our last point. Book of Acts, chapter 20, verses 22 through 24 says this. It says this right here. It says, and now, behold, I go bound in the Spirit into Jerusalem. So the only reason he's going is because he is obeying the Spirit of the Most High God. He says, I go bound in the Spirit unto Jerusalem, not knowing the things that shall befall me there. See, I've been telling y'all the past couple of weeks, you're not going to have all details all the time. And you've got to understand why that's so important. This is why this is so important, because you not knowing all of the details has been keeping a lot of you from saying yes, because you are allowing your imagination to go the wrong direction. So this is why I need you to catch this. Watch this. He says, and now, behold, I go bound in the spirit unto Jerusalem, not knowing the things that shall befall me there, save that the Holy Ghost witnesseth in every city, saying that bonds and afflictions abide me. Watch verse 24. But none of these things move me. None of these things move me. Neither count I my life dear unto myself, so that I might finish my course with joy and the ministry which I have received of the Lord Jesus to testify the gospel of the grace of God. This is why this is so important. I want you to see verse 22. It says, and now, behold, I go bound in the spirit unto Jerusalem, not knowing the things that shall befall me there. Here's our 8th point. Then I'm done. When your yes is bigger than your if, conditions can't control you. See, that's why I wanted you to see Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We're going to look at them a little bit more even on Saturday. But the reason that I wanted you to catch that and the reason that I wanted you to see Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego last week is because I had to show you that point that I showed you coming from them about the clarification of your desire. But this one right here is why I want you to see this from this angle first before I show you Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego again on Saturday. When your yes is bigger than your if, conditions can't control you. So no matter what kind of consequences are threatened towards you, when your yes is bigger than your if, those conditions are not going to keep you from walking fully into your yes. Even when you don't know what may come out of it. The Lord may protect me, he may not, but I know this is what I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to do it. Now, since I know that this is what I'm supposed to do, see that's why, again, you gotta keep things in your mind like what Esther said. You know, if I perish, I perish. What Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, hey, we ain't careful to answer you this about this, O king. One thing we ain't finna do is we ain't finna bow down. We don't care if you put us in the fiery furnace or not. Because, boy, when we talk about Saturday, the conversation in the fire, whoo, I ain't finna mess with it because I done already had y'all too long tonight. But again, point number 1, if implies advancement or demise based upon conditionality of whatever is in question, whenever whatever is in question is being answered. Point number 2, if sometimes helps to clarify your choice to decide. Point number 3, when your if is bigger than your yes, your desire isn't clarified yet. Point number 4, if you consistently require an if to get to your yes, then you haven't fully committed to anything yet. Point number 5, when your if is bigger than your yes at the start, you're probably going to be double-minded concerning that specific thing. Point number 6, when your if is bigger than your yes, then you will have more faith in the conditions than you do in your calling. Point number 7, some of you have let your if become your idol and your yes to become a yield sign. Point number 8, when your yes is bigger than your if, conditions can't control you. How big is your if? How big is your if? Saturday morning, 10 a.m., we're going to be in location B in Shelbyville, Tennessee, down at the Kingdom Dominion Multiplex Center, 111 Deary Street. Gonna have a mighty good time because we're gonna build on this more. Around about 10:30ish, we will plan to be on Exclusive Ecclesia again. I can't thank y'all enough for sticking with me in this. I'm looking forward to seeing how this is fixing to break free for so many of you. I'm looking forward to seeing how things are about to advance for you, because when you clarify your desire and you truly start to see what your yes is supposed to be, and it begins to remove all of the ifs and doubts that have been holding you back over the years. When you finally start walking in this, the field of your desire is about to be lit up. And there are things that have been set in your destiny that have been waiting on this version of you that I'm building for you to step into it. I can't thank y'all enough. I really can't. Y'all have no idea how it blesses me to see you all on here, for you all to come in person, for you all to interact, for you all to do all of these things. I cannot tell you enough what that does for me, because it lets me know that me stepping into my yes and not yielding to my ifs has been worth this payoff, to have all of you who are followers, who are sowers, who are partakers of the building of God's kingdom that he is choosing to establish through Terrence Lyons and Ecclesia Ministries that he has built. I can't tell y'all how much that blesses me, because it lets me know that my yes was never in vain. It lets me know that my yes had an appointed time to come forth, just like right now, so that we can begin to expand God's kingdom and make a difference in the midst of everything that's going on across this country and others, simply because of the ripple effect of you all taking in, putting on your steel toes, putting on your neck brace, doing all of the things that you do, Band-Aids, everything that you do, to be able to embrace and hear the words that God speaks through me. I can't thank you enough for your support, for your belief, and following what I do for the kingdom. I love you guys. Appreciate all of you. How big is your if? Just don't let your ifs stay bigger than your yes. Only let that if, or only allow that if to lead you to your yes, so that you no longer have to utilize the if. I love you guys. Y'all have a blessed rest of the evening. Peace.